Service.
Listen to this.
Take a listen.
Navy
Navy
SEAL,
SEAL,
Federal Air
Federal Air
Marshal,
Marshal,
security contractors,
FBI
FBI
special agents.
Unbelievable.
Unbelievable to me.
Mark Donald's
Mark
younger,
Donald's
great book,
great
The
book,
Battle Ready,
Battle Ready,
memoir of a Navy
Navy
SEAL warrior. He himself a
himself
SEAL
a SEAL
veteran.
veteran.
Done incredible work as a military medical provider, and it's great to have both these guys with us. Mark and Jonathan,
How are you?
I'm doing great. Well, where do we start? Let's start with Mark. This disorder, PTSD.
PTSD.
In the case
In
of
the
the
case of
Portland shooter,
shooter,
a few months in Iraq, no
no
combat.
combat.
What do you think was the reason for his condition?
Well, I don't think you could call it PTSD. By definition, PTSD is usually a single one-time event. Now, that event could be minutes or it could be hours. But I think it's ludicrous to feel that there wasn't some stress that was brought on by combat from that. So the anxiety that this man has probably felt and many of the other combat veterans feel as they enter and exit the battlefield doesn't necessarily fit that definition, but it's still combat stress.
Yeah. And Jonathan, there's got to be so many warning signs that are missed along the way. But I'm reading articles today that many with PTSD would never have a violent streak. Is that the case?
That is the case. And a lot of times, we talk about PTSD, and I think a lot of these issues are people who, they've gone over, they've been in a war zone, and they just need time to decompress. They need, a military executive force that really looks out for them and takes care of them. And that, first and foremost, doesn't really exist. So when you compound that with people who really have serious issues with PTSD, the lack of this mental awareness and mental health program that they should have is just devastating. And, people don't want to come forward because it's always been known if you have a mental health issue in the military, it's a career killer.
Yeah. You in New York City, like in the police department, you have to
live in the world of police department fire. Shoot somebody.
Even if you're fine, you cannot go back to work. It's mandatory. You have to go meet with a psychiatrist, spend a few days with them, they have to evaluate you. Should we have something like that when people are coming out of combat?
Well, I think, look, I'm a physician assistant. I was a medical provider in the military. I have PTSD, okay? I don't like to refer to it as a disorder. It's a consequence. It's a circumstance that occurred from combat, and it's something that I have. It's going to be with me for the rest of my life. It almost caused me to take my life. I've seen it, I've felt it, I've treated it, I've been around it, okay? It's not something that is simply just going to be addressed one time and it's done. It's a series, it's a stress, just like any other stressor on the mind. So if you think of a glass being, empty, and every time stressors start going into it, it's going to continue to fill and fill and fill. What I've seen as being director for the SEAL Association, the EDT SEAL Association Veteran Program, is that even as our guys age, they start to show some signs, or as they separate from service, they lose those support mechanisms. All these pressures start adding up. And what's the most vivid memory that's going to come to them is going to be something from the battlefield. So this isn't something that you're going to just be able to treat or provide some service. This is a dedicated coordination and effort. And I think that's exactly what he was alluding to with his last statement, is this is going to take a long-term commitment and understanding that. And we do need to develop that.
Now, you're obviously a smart guy, pretty together guy. Why do you suppose you suffer from this? Yet somebody serving right next to you doesn't.
Well, that's a great point, and it goes back to what experiences the mind has gone through prior to it experiencing that mental trauma that they just witnessed. Okay, if someone comes from an area and they've received a significant amount of mental trauma, which they've hidden away from others, and another person hasn't had that, they've had a much more stable life prior to that, they can look at things completely different.
Yeah.
And then as things start collapsing in, they're going to start trying to look for escape. Let me give you one example, if you let me run here for a second.
Yeah, go ahead.
I've watched how wounded veterans, physically wounded veterans, I've watched how they start to feel bad and go into a depressive state when they're removed from the unit and they have to heal. They feel they're letting their people, the rest of their unit down, their buddies, their teammates down, because they're not there to be with them. Now imagine if it wasn't something that you could physically see or feel. It wasn't palpable, but it's your mind. Your mind is what's broken, and that's what's keeping you from being there. Imagine the impact that gives you on your self-worth and value.
So, what do you have
to do
to live with this? What do you have to do to keep yourself stable?
Talk. Look, for me, and I'm just going to give you my opinion. I've been fortunate enough to serve two tours as commander of the Purple Heart for the Commonwealth of Virginia, talking to veterans from all generations that have dealt with it. And this is my opinion based on it. Okay, PTSD is very much like a long-term, permanent situation. Just as an alcoholic will always be an alcoholic. They go to AA meetings to get support so they never touch the bottle, right? That's their support mechanism. For those of us that suffer, for me, who has PTSD, I talk about it. I openly talk about it. Something I never did. When I internalized it, I was scared of it, just as what you said earlier. It just grew and grew and grew into a
wow.
I have to talk about it. And there have been times where I have not spoken. I have not been able to talk about it because I've been ashamed. And I go back into that. And here, I wrote a book all about it. I've tried to pour it all out there.
Yeah.
And I
no wonder.
still felt ashamed and retracted back in and spiraled back downward. It took friends that, like the teammate on the line, sit there and reach in and slap me around and pull me back out.
Wow, my goodness.
Jonathan, the
Jonathan,
Fort Hood shooter, he's got a wife, he's got
friends
friends on the
Fort
face,
Hood shooter.
commanding officer. Shouldn't somebody have seen that he was getting too far over the line
here?
Well, you have to have a program in place, and you have to have a community that is embracing the real impact of these mental issues. And going with what he was just talking about right there. This I have a degree in psychology. I studied psychology and political science in college, and PTSD is nothing new. I mean, it doesn't just it didn't magically happen all of a sudden. I remember reading a story where a woman had 14 multiple personalities. She and her siblings were abused by their mom by having, when they got in trouble, she would put them all in scalding hot water in the bathtub. They didn't, her sister didn't develop multiple personalities. She dealt with it in a different way. This woman, however, dealt with it by creating different personalities. And that's how you get these things when, men or women are side by side in battle or in life, and one person affects the other is not. But when you have in society, when you have somebody who's raped, they have rape counseling, they have, all different kinds of courses. When somebody is, traumatized by their childhood and they become alcoholic, they have AA. But in the military, the system is not set up. And if the system's not set up, they're not going to recognize these things. And this leads into your other issue, which is not to get away from PTSD, but it's really one issue and the same. When you send people to war and you teach them how to use weapons and you certify them, you give them a expert marksman badge on their chest, and then they go over, they put their life on the line, they come back, and they take their weapons away and treat them like they're just not capable. And that type of leadership mentality does not bode well when it comes to recognizing mental health issues that may be rising.
Hey, but this guy's wife seems like a nice woman, a smart woman. And she was absolutely stunned. How does she have no idea that her husband's having problems?
Well, my wife had no idea. Well, she had an idea that there were some problems. And she is also a licensed medical provider, a credentialed medical provider. And she still didn't have the full understanding. But I want to go back to something, because we're talking a lot about PTSD, and I don't necessarily feel that he had post-traumatic stress disorder. What he could have had, and this is what I like to refer to it as combat stress. It's combat-related anxiety, and he could have had a lot of other disorders that were there. At first, I started reading reports about that he was getting a late diagnosis of post-traumatic stress. Of course, there's going to be a late diagnosis because you want to make sure that you get the appropriate diagnosis to provide the appropriate treatment. And Jonathan was hitting it right on the money there.
Yes.
But what you can't have is a delay in treatment, and it doesn't look like they did. What you need is a good, solid, sustained treatment plan. Being able to hide whatever you're facing from your spouse or from your family members or even those that are around you isn't as difficult as people think. I found it much more harder to hide it from my teammates in special operations than I did from my family.
This guy was under evaluation by experts who were awaiting a diagnosis. But the shape he was in, shouldn't they have realized this guy shouldn't be walking around that day, that night?
Well, you have to be very careful with who you term an expert, because we don't, I don't really know how deep the expertise goes at Fort Hood when it comes to diagnosing these things, because this is the second time we've had this nature of an event on the same base. And they have a lot of these, post-traumatic stress disorders or people that have mental issues that end up there because of the amount of troops that are going in and out. But there needs to be more than just one expert looking at it. It needs to be a system set up where, if my teammate has post-traumatic stress disorder, I should be able to go to him and say, listen, bro, something's going on. Let me go with you and let's go talk to a counselor. And there shouldn't be repercussions for that. And if you don't have that system and you're just relying on a quote-unquote expert to diagnose this, who sees the person for an hour a day, it's not going to work.
Yeah, I think one advantage that some units have is they embed their medical providers into the unit, so they have a much more ability to see the person or see the individual over a long term. I think what Jonathan brought up is a really good point, though. The military system, as it's currently developed, is made to make sure that every soldier, sailor, airman, and Marine is 100% capable, and as it should be by that model. But here's the problem. When you have everybody in the unit that's 100% capable, when someone is starting to have problems, you remove them from that unit, and sometimes they go in a limited duty status, or they go to a wounded warrior battalion, or wherever it may be. But when they're removed from that, they're removed from their support mechanism. And they're removed from the people that they see every day that provide substance to their life. So in essence, you've strengthened the unit, but you've weakened the individual. And I dare say it eventually weakens the whole unit, because everybody feels the pain of that person, especially when something like this happens.
Well, it's an honor to have both of you guys on. Donald's book is Battle Ready, a memoir of a Navy SEAL medic, and Jonathan Gilliam, I still can't get over this resume. Navy SEAL, Federal Air Marshal, FBI, Special Agent. Look at two Navy SEAls. I'm just trying to let you know.
Say one thing.
Yeah.
It's always an honor to be either on a show or anywhere with another Navy SEAL. We're not supermen, but we do super things because we sail into the minds of ourselves, but we're not made of steel. And if Mark has post-traumatic stress disorder, that's just showing you that even these men that do these incredible things are susceptible. And, we need to really take these things seriously and stop giving so much money, which I said the other day, to welfare programs to citizens that do nothing. I'm not saying everybody on welfare, but there are a lot of people that milk the system in welfare that do nothing to earn their citizenship, when guys like Mark are going out there putting his life on the line for this country, for the freedom for this country, to come home and have no welfare program to take care of his full capacity.
Well, again, an honor to have both you guys. Great public service.
Thank you, Jonathan.
Hey, thanks for being with us. Look at these guys. Navy SEAls. I'm just trying to get myself to go to the gym tonight. Even that. Just
my dad.
that. I don't have enough discipline to even do that tonight. Look at these guys. Navy SEAL, Air Marshal, FBI agent. It's Mark Simone here.
Trust me about that. Anyways, they're great guys, and